Okay, so hello again. So in the next one, we need to do this letter histogram exercise. So this is an exercise where we need to write a function called letter histogram, and that function should be given a string as input. Then what it should do with the string is that it should turn it into a dictionary of this form. So the dictionary contains as key all the different letters in the alphabet, A, B, C, and so on. And then the corresponding value is how many times that letter occurred in the string. Then we can see we get some hints here. So the function should consider the 26 letters of the English alphabet, so not the Danish one. We need to ignore spaces, punctuation, and numbers. Uppercase letters should be counted in the same way as lowercase letters, so it shouldn't be B, uppercase B should be counted as lowercase b, and the entries should be in alphabetic order. Okay, that's a little bit of a strange one, but I guess that's natural. But then we need to remember the order of the English alphabet. Well, I guess we can do that. Maybe. That's going to be the challenge here. I can never remember where W is supposed to be. Okay, so let's just jump into it. So we got the files and we got the letters like this. So we can see that here's the function. It's given a string. It should return a dictionary, and we call it here with the word banana. So what I want to do here is that I insert an empty print statement. Maybe I just print out the input string. I save it. I put in a breakpoint, because now what I want to do is I want to start the debugger, and then the debugger is going to start running the file, and the moment it executes this line, right before actually, it will stop. And the reason why I insert an empty print statement whenever I run the debugger is because the debugger needs a valid line of code, Python code, in order to be able to stop. Otherwise I couldn't insert a breakpoint. I cannot, okay, I can actually. Interesting, I didn't think I could. Let's just check if I can insert a breakpoint on a comment. I don't think I can. Okay, so, okay, fine. So it I don't know, it somehow allowed me, but then it stopped here in the input string. My point is that you should always put breakpoints on valid lines of Python code and not comments. That's what I learned to do and being like brainwashed to do, and I think you actually need to do that in VS Code. Anyway, that's much to do about nothing. So what's going to be my strategy in order to solve this problem? Well, let's imagine that I start out with a dictionary where all the letters are in it, but the corresponding count is 0. Then what I can do is that I can loop over all the letters in the word, and then for every single letter I can just increase the corresponding entry by 1. Then I need to keep in mind that I need to not distinguish between upper and lowercase words, letters, and I need to ignore like spaces and other stuff. Okay, so distinguishing between upper and lowercase, that's pretty easy because I can just convert the word to lowercase, and that should take care of that. So let me just show that I press the debug console, and that's because I'm stuck in the I'm stopped in the debugger. And then what I can actually do is that I can use the if input string is banana, I can use the lower function to convert it to lowercase. Remember, the uppercase function converts to uppercase, but lower ensures it's lowercase. In this case, it starts out as being lowercase, so nothing happens, but that would be a convenient way to start this exercise, I feel. So now I don't need to worry about the difference between upper and lowercase letters. Then I need to initialize the dictionary. So I can initialize the dictionary by using this syntax. So now hist is a dictionary. I can check that by using the type function. It is indeed a histogram. So histogram is equal to the empty histogram. And then I need to sort of like say, okay, it needs to have 28 keys, and each key has the value of 0. So I could do that in a couple of ways. Like the most boring way of doing it is like this, where I just have 20 6 lines like this. I can cut that down a little bit. There are many convenient ways of doing that, but I think this is the most pedagogical way of doing it. Instead, I just make a string that's called the alphabet with all the letters in the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. I think that's the alphabet. Now I want to just confirm. So I run this code and that defines this very alphabet because that's supposed to be, oops, I got an extra, oh no, 25. Oh, that's not good. Okay, come on, you can do this. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Ah yeah, we forgot G, good. Let's hope we got them in alphabetic order. So now the length is 26. Good. Because what I can do now is that I can create a for loop where I loop over all the letters in the alphabet. And I can do that using the same syntax we saw, I think it was 2 weeks ago, of how we could loop over strings. And if I have this loop, remember this is going to print out the letters in the alphabet. Let me just confirm it by selecting this text and then using my favorite shortcut. And my favorite shortcut is Shift plus Alt plus E. And that runs it, run lines. Shift Alt E. So that prints out all the letters in the alphabet. And then what I can do is I can say the histogram value corresponding to that letter should be equal to 0. So let me just try to run this code. So now I just Shift Alt E, run it, and then I print out what histogram is. So now histogram is initialized properly. Okay, what's the next thing that I need to do? Well, I can forget about these lines. They don't matter anymore. Now I need another for loop because now I need to loop over input string. So remember, input string is banana. So what I basically want to do is that I want to take the first letter from input string, like that. That should be what? B, right? And then I want to say that the value of histogram in L, which is 0, should be equal to 1. But in more generality, it should be equal to whatever it was before plus 1. Because this is like my way of taking this particular first letter into account. And now what I can do is I can just write a for loop for L in the input string. Because remember, that is going to loop over all the letters in the input string. And then each time I update the histogram count by 1 for the entry corresponding to that letter. So let me try to do that, and I'll just print out the histogram in each iteration. And then let's try to run this code. So I select it and then Shift Alt D. And now you can see it prints out a lot of stuff. So initially it prints out, like it runs this code first, so that will increase B by 1. And then it'll increase A by 1, and then it'll get an N, so N will be updated by 1. And then it gets an A, so A will be equal to 2. And so on, and then eventually it updates the histogram. Now there is a bug here, and I think I'm actually going to trigger that bug by running the test on code that I know has a little bit of a problem. Maybe you can tell what the problem is, but I'm doing it this way because I want to show you how you can use the tests to identify problems and eventually solve them. So let me just oh, I need to do one last thing, because remember it needs to return a dictionary, so I need to return the dictionary. That was not the bug that that was not the bug that I'm after. So let me just show what the bug is. I think the bug is going to be triggered in the tests. So I go to the tests, I find the test for week 6, and here we have the histogram tests. So now I can try to run those. Yeah, and it gives me an error. What is the error? So it tells me the error here. It's a very mysterious thing, right? Like there's a lot of output here. We need to sort of parse it. So what you can see in this file is you can see what the tests that are being run is. We can see that it calls letter histogram with this input value, and then what it expects in return is this dictionary here. And what I immediately notice is that this string contains spaces and it contains a period. If you actually go up here and see what it complains about, it says key error. So remember, key error was the one we saw earlier. Like if I define a dictionary, okay. So I cannot use this. It's not in a debug session, so I cannot use the debug console. But remember, if I index a dictionary with something that's not a key in the dictionary, I get a key error. So in this case, what happens is that it loops over all the characters in the roof is on fire. It gets to this particular character because space is a character. Then it tries to check what is histogram for space, but it doesn't exist. So that's why I get an error. So I can look at the test and I can look at the output, and if I'm a little bit careful, I can get a really good clue about what the problem is. And that's a super important skill because like this is the best you have in order to debug your own programs. Like an error, some kind of indication about what you got into the program, and then you need to sort of work your way backwards and figure out what the problem is. Okay, so I basically need to tell my function to avoid spaces and avoid periods and avoid commas and avoid a whole bunch of things. How can I do that? Well, here I go over all the letters in input string, and then what I want to say is if L is in the alphabet, then I do this update. Because if L is not in the alphabet, which are these letters, then it's like something that I shouldn't count. So I think that's going to fix it. So I just save this file, and now I can run the test again. And that took care of it. So that's how we can solve this problem. And yeah, I hope that was useful. So good luck.